Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? My name is Tony Rizzano, and this is another episode of the world famous, the University Love, the best podcast in 1, 2, 3 galaxies. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you and I, we just call this show Online Marketing Moves. And we are coming to you live today. You know what? Ladies and gents, today we're going to talk about something very exciting, okay? Today, ladies and gents, we are going to talk about the wonderful world of professional wrestling. And we're going to talk about storytelling and building a character. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because, ladies and gents, the better you are at telling stories, the more money you can make. The better you are at crafting an image, I'm pretty sure you can make some money. Let's say you want to let's just talk about YouTube, for example. Let's say we're not going to talk about business. We're going to talk about YouTube. We're going to talk about YouTube podcasting, things like that. We're going to talk about that. Let's say that you want to be a big time YouTube star, okay? In order for you to really get some steam going on YouTube. Now, when I say create a character, I do not mean tell a lie, okay? I do not mean that. I mean come up with a personality that's your own, but you have to ramp it up a notch, you know? It's just like professional wrestling. I'm sure I probably talked about this before, but I bring this up because as a guy that used to watch wrestling, I see a lot of elements of professional wrestling in different genres. You go to politics. There's a lot of wrestling in politics. There's a lot of storylines. There's a lot of I hate the Republicans, or I hate the Democrats, or the left, the right, and there's people who, they claim to be on one side or the other, but they're probably really not, but they make money by, and being on the left or being on the right. They make money by talking about, Joe Biden all day. If you call a guy Sleepy Joe 100 times, you might make some money, or, for when it's just like whoever's the president, if you go the opposite way, you'll probably have some ratings. That's how Fox News, in 2008, when Barack Obama became president, I remember, every night Bill O'Reilly was like, I don't know about the president. I don't know, blah, blah, blah. All these guys, Sean Hannity, all of them. Characters, they've all created a sort of character, All they'll tell you, oh, no, this is me, but, it's kind of enhanced, it's kind of a character. And it's that way in politics. It's that way in hip-hop. Hip-hop has a lot of, there's a lot of storylines. There's a lot of lies told in hip-hop. I'll give you an example. I remember when the rapper, Rick Ross, when Rick Ross first came out, he was, he was like, oh, I used to sell drugs, yada, 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 yada. The basic, a lot of these hip-hop guys, they use the same storyline. Oh, I was selling more drugs than, El Chapo, but then, I decided to change my life around, so then I decided to get into music, Everybody was Kaiser Sose, now all of a sudden they want to be a rapper, But anyway, Rick Ross, he was, oh, I sold drugs, And I remember they uncovered a picture of him wearing a correctional officer uniform. And they say, hold on, you used to sell drugs or you was a correctional officer? Which one, man? And he like, what? Ooh, I worked there for And it's like, come on, man. You probably was a correctional officer until you got your first record deal or whatever, And it's just like, there's lies on top of lies, and storyline on top of storyline. And everybody has a story, And it's there's nothing wrong with that. So for you, let's say, well, the only thing well, the only thing about, like, okay, you should never take people on. You should never take. Honestly, I'll be honest with you. This is just my opinion, but you should never take anybody that's on TV. You should always take everybody on TV with a grain of salt, because what's their agenda? Like, what's your angle? What's your real goal? What's the real goal? What are you offering? What are you trying to sell me? And people, it's just like, the Bill O'Reillys and the Tucker Carlson. Yeah, they want you to watch the program, of course. So that they're gonna say the most outlandish stuff, the Glenn Becks and everything like that. They're gonna say things that try to shock the system, and they're gonna say things that the most people, let's say everybody's this way with Barack Obama. Somebody, if you go the other way, then there's a good chance that you will, make some money. It's like, I remember when I first, a friend of mine sent me a clip of Candace Owens. I didn't know who the lady was. I didn't know anything about her. But she was arguing about that, America's not racist and this, that, and the other. And, America has its faults, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely not like people on the, I hate to say this, but it's definitely not like what people on the left. I'll give you another example. People on the left, they would like to, a lot of people on the left, not everybody, but a lot of people on the left, especially the ones you see on TV, they like to let you think that everything is still, like, we're still in the racial divide of 1940, 1950, 1960. And we're not. It's a pretty good, America is a pretty good place, no matter who you are, no matter what race, nationality, does not matter. America's pretty good. It's a heck of a lot better than a lot of places you could be, And for anybody to pretend like, oh man, they beating us, and they enslaving us, it's like, come on, bro, that's not happening. But people on the left they craft the storyline about that, the Joy Reids of the world, the who's another sportscaster I used to like, Jamel Hill, they're always about race, that's their storyline. It's race. Race. Robin DiAngelo, race. What's another guy? Kendi, race. That's the storyline, They crafted a storyline. I mean, it's an annoying storyline, but it works for them. And they're making millions of dollars. Now, I'm not saying you have to have that kind of storyline, but I'm saying to craft, and then they're all characters, because it's like the lady from the Black Lives Matter, she was like, oh, Black Lives Matter, blah, 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 blah. But she has a house in a gated community in LA worth like $3 million. And it's like, I'm sure she probably dines and eats with plenty of people, not just black people, but I'm sure she dines and eats with rich people, you know what I mean? Like elitist people. So, and the plight of black people is the farthest thing from her mind, but that's the storyline that she's created. And she's created a character, and the character has gotten over with suckers of the world and rubes of the world. And, I'm not saying that you have to do that, but the more defined that you are when it comes to your YouTube and your podcast, different channels, different things you want to do, the more defined that program is, or could be, I think the more successful you will be. It's not, the kiss of death is trying to be general. The kiss of death is trying to be everybody's friend. The kiss of death is trying to have generalizations, Nowadays, more specialization, less generalizing, because it's like, I remember one time I thought about doing a sports podcast, but it's like, it would take me so long to build up the sports podcast, but I should break it down and do like hockey or soccer, things that I actually watch these days. Like if I did a hockey podcast, I'm pretty sure I can build it up a heck of a lot quicker than when I build a generalized, podcast. This is sort of a generalized podcast. This is sort of a hodgepodge, but I never had any intention of it being specialized when I started it. I just knew that I wanted to talk about marketing and copywriting and everything under the sun as far as business, and getting ahead in business. So, for me, but now, like, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to start a podcast about Christianity and religion and following the teachings of Jesus, and I will give you the name of that podcast in a couple of weeks. And we're going to get that started. That's going to be that's going to be a specialty. That's not going to be, I'm not going to talk about, Muslim. I'm not going to talk about Catholic. I'm going to talk about following the teachings in the Bible. I'm not going to really go into different churches and all that kind of stuff. It's going to be about people who want to learn about the Bible and what's in the Bible and what you can get out of the Bible. And that's going to be it doesn't matter your religion, doesn't matter your race, doesn't matter whatever. That's going to be the Bible and why you should follow the Bible. That's going to be the specialty. And, and eventually I do want to start a hockey podcast, and talk about hockey, talk about the St. Louis Blues, I'm breaking it down even more, that's more of a specialty. And so, because I watch sometimes, I just study this stuff, and I watch YouTube, and I see people who, you have the people who specialize in makeup, they're like, hey, I do makeup, or I do fitness, or I do, I see now you see more and more people doing videos about internet scams and schemes, You see more of that. That's the specialty, and the more specialized your story can be, the better off you will be, You could craft a story, you could craft a character, and like I said, you don't have to, it's not about lying. When I say character, it's not about, making something up. It's, as I told you before, the greatest characters in pro wrestling are the ones that are more of themselves than anything else. Ric Flair is Ric Flair. He just turns it up a notch when he's in the ring. Hulk Hogan is Hulk Hogan. He turns it up a notch. Stone Cold, same thing. The Rock, same thing. Bret Hart, same thing. Shawn Michaels, same thing. All these guys are great. They ratchet it up a notch. You know what I mean? And so you can do that as well. And there's, show your personality. Show who you are. Be free. Be yourself. Don't hold back. Don't have any ambition. Don't be nervous. Don't be, scared. Have an opinion. Say something. And build your character. Create a storyline. Take that story and run with it, and you will start to see results. You will get more and more people to follow you to because you want to stand out amongst the crowd. People want to stand out, but then people do not want to take the bows and arrows that come with standing out. There are going to be people that don't like you, and that's okay. You want to be a leader, The more you lead, the more money you can make. It's just as simple as that. You know what I mean? And so, be who you are, It's like good or bad qualities, Like, I don't necessarily, I don't like large groups. I don't do large groups. And so, me, myself, I think this is why I enjoy it. This is why I probably, like, I got an email the other day about a guy being a guest on a show, and he wrote a book, and they sent me this press release and everything, and I was telling my wife, and my wife was she was kind of impressed, and she was like, oh, that's good, when are you going to interview him? And I was like, do I really want to interview him? I mean, I would like to, but I'm like, at the end of the day, do I just like talking to you one-on-one in a one-on-one situation? Because I'm more of a I can entertain you, but do I want to sit there with a guest and have to, sort of half chuckle and go, ha, 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 ha. So, tell me about your book. Tell me about your life. How do people get a hold of you? How do people get in contact with you? Do I want to dive into that? Now, when it comes to the religious podcast, when it comes to the Bible podcast, I'm going to definitely look for guests. I'm definitely going to get myself out there, talk to people about the Bible. I have plans for this podcast. But for this one, I'm not gonna lie. This podcast is my baby. I've been doing this podcast by myself for a long time. I sort of like it that way. I'm not bothering anybody. Nobody's bothering me. I talk to you. You listen. You can always email back, but you probably won't. So I don't even give out the email address anymore. I'm sure we'll grow in due time, and then people start emailing. They'll start complaining about something. But until then, I don't really care about giving out the email. Plus, I probably need to get a new email address anyway. But that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But yeah, just work on your story. Just work on your storytelling, and work on crafting the character that you want people to see. You know, I'm not saying you have to be perfect, but honestly, people say they want a guy with faults and warts and stuff like that, but they really don't. They like perfection, you know. Now me, I do this podcast. I really don't. I'm not perfect. I don't try to be. I sort of go off the cuff. I talk. I have points, but I don't really. I'm not sitting here reading off a whole monologue of things I've written down. You know, I use my talking points, and then I keep it pushing. You know, and so for me, that's why you always hear a lot of. Sometimes you hear start, stops. You hear silence. You hear a lot of different things. You know, it's because it's in my head. You know, I'm going with it. You know, we're riffing on the fly. You know, we're talking. You know, it's not written down. It's not scripted. It's not a monologue. It's just a guy with some bullet points. He tells you what he's thinking about that day, and then we move on about our business. But so figure out your angle, figure out your storyline, figure out what you want to do, and you can do a podcast, you can do YouTube, get yourself out there. The more you get yourself out there, the more you can scale up, the more money you can start making. I see some people making like $70,000 off YouTube a month. That's great. That could be you. I know some things to do to get views on YouTube, but I don't know everything. Like I'm in that fight with you, so I'm not an expert right now when it comes to YouTube, but I've done some things to get views on my channel, but you know it's been a while. So that's it. I think we can end the show now, but we'll be back tomorrow with the all new episode of Online Marketing Moves. My name is Tony Zano. Thank you for listening. And if you ever want to get in contact with me, I know I said you won't write, which you probably won't, but I don't care. Write. You could just follow me on Twitter if you want. It's T and the last name RESONNO on Twitter. You can always send me a message and I'll respond. And other than that, that's it. We'll be back tomorrow with the all new episode of Online Marketing Moves. But until then, my name is Tony Zano. Thank you for listening. And as always, everybody, peace.